Shalom, Kahalayim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the elect, the Bakiyah, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. As always, it's an honor and privilege to continue to do this work. Real quick, this is from finance.yahoo.com. China warms to idea of 4 more years of Trump presidency. Now, when you go into the scriptures and you deal with the whole confederacy of Esau or Edom, you know that Moab, the Chinese, are one of the top nations, listed at number 3 in chronological order. I'm going to start at the top. This is Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Yeah, because all these heathen nations, including 2/3 of the nation of Israel, hate Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Because when you go to, let me see if I could bring that scripture up. This is St. John chapter 15, verse 18. It says, if the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Because even in this truth, it might seem, oh, the world hates us, but it's not us that they hate. It's Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Going back to Psalms chapter 83, verse 2 again. It says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Yeah, so all these different nations have taken crafty counsel against the Israelites. You Israelites being you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. It says, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. And that's exactly what they did, man. All these so-called nations have their own, I'll say, nationality. But what Jake got? They're named after conquerors, or they're named after things that are bywords and proverbs, man. They're not known as being Israelites or Yasha Allah in whatever perspective tribe of the 12 that their forefathers are from. They don't know that their father is Yahweh and their Lord is Yahweh Shai and their king is Dawadah. They don't have the dietary law. They don't have how to treat each other. They don't have those things. So these nations have took that from us. These nations have took that from us, man. Verse 4 again. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Yeah, so their whole plan was to have the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. And how is it? They call Amalek the Israelis, and then they try to say Jew or Judah, this, that, and the third, but the letter J is only 500 years old. And they're not going to ever blatantly come out with the fact that, oh yeah, these are the Israelites, these so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You know, it says, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against the tabernacles, which tabernacle means house or body. The tabernacles of Edom, which is the so-called white man, and the Ishmaelites, which is those people living in Arabia, of Moab, which is the Chinese, man, and the Hagarenes, which is the Africans, man, the Hamites, you know? So you got to have that in mind when dealing with the world stage. So it says Donald Trump has argued frequently of late that China is rooting for Joe Biden come November's U.S. presidential election in Beijing. However, officials have come around to support 4 more years of Trump. Interviews with 9 current and former Chinese officials point to a shift in sentiment in favor of the sitting president, even though he has spent much of the past 4 years blaming Beijing for everything from U.S. trade imbalances to COVID-19. The chief reason, a belief that the benefit of the erosion of America's post-war alliance network would outweigh any damage to China from continued trade disputes and geopolitical instability. So what China is in an in about way of thinking and saying is that we're waiting for Donald Trump to turn against its America's allies and for America's allies to turn against it, which is all scriptural, man. You know, that's part of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua will. And I'm just going to get to the point. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, which those were the nations of, the main nations of NATO and the EU, says, these shall hate the whore. So they're going to hate the whore, which the whore is the government that rides upon the beast, which is America, man. The whore is America. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Yeah. So even America's own allies are going to be shooting missiles on it, man. It says, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will. Yeah. So they're going to fulfill Yahweh's will, man. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua's will, man. And that's for America to be wiped off the face of the earth. It says, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Yeah. And what other country reigns over all these other countries right now, other than America, man? You know? I'm going back to the article. It says, while the officials shared concerns that U.S.-China tensions would rise regardless of who was in the White House, they broke largely into camps of those who emphasized geopolitical gains and those who were concerned about trade ties. Biden, the former vice president, was viewed as a traditional Democrat who would seek to shore up Slovakia, who would seek to shore up the U.S.-tatered multilateral relationships and tamp down trade frictions. If Biden is elected, I think this could be more dangerous for China because he will work with allies to target China, whereas Trump is destroying U.S. allies, said Zhao Shengming, a former Chinese trade negotiator. God damn, everybody in their fucking mama. Salaki. I'm gonna call when I get back. I'm gonna call him after this video. It says, it's always happen when you doing the work, man. When you're trying to do a video, you get all these people texting and calling and alarms ringing. It says a former Chinese trade negotiator, former deputy representative in Geneva, Four current officials echoed that sentiment, saying many in the Chinese government believe Trump victory could help Beijing by weakening what they saw as Washington's greatest asset for checking China's widening influence. The assumption underlying their view was that little could be done to halt the slide of relations between the world's two biggest economies. Thus, China needed to accelerate efforts to develop high end indigenous industries, expand into developing markets, and look for opportunities to work with nations in Europe and Asia to counter any U.S. isolation efforts. So what China is banking on is Donald Trump to continue to destroy its alliances, man, which is NATO and the EU, which is the beast, which is all part of prophecy. So, a Salakia for the disturbances, but I hope at least one brother was edified, and I'm going to say Shalom.